right, so we're good to go. All right, so hi, I'm Mark from ratings.com.
And I'm Sam.
So today we're going to be comparing the Sony WH-1000XM3 to the Bose QuietComfort 35 II. Again, we'll be prioritizing your questions. We do have a couple notes here that we are going to cover comparing both headphones, but feel free to ask any questions. We will stay focused on the comparison between the Bose and the Sonys for the first 25 minutes. The last 5 minutes are open questions about anything, whether it's our tests, our testing procedure, or another headphone for any, that you want to know about. But yeah, so let's get into it.
All right. So I'm going to scroll down on the review here that we have. And the first thing is the design section and comfort. So
As good as any to start.
So how do you feel about the comfort of the QC35 II versus the XM3?
So the XM3 have actually changed the design quite a bit compared to the XM2. So they're more closely matching. Yeah, I'll grab them. It's probably easier.
You can also grab the XM2.
Yeah. Do you mind holding on to this and the XM2? So show it to the camera in front. We'll start with the differences in the XM2 to the XM3. First of all, the headband design is like completely different. If you compare, you see it matches more what the Bose is doing than what it used to do before. The pads are also slightly more comfortable on the...
Softer? Yeah.
Softer, yeah. Softer. Overall, most people in the office who tried the XM3 do find them a bit more comfortable than the XM2, especially because of the better pads and the tighter fit of the headband. However, they don't quite surpass the QuietComfort yet, but comfort is quite subjective. We have our video editor who prefers the Sony's comfort-wise to the QC35s, just because his ears touches the inside of the QC35s. But for most, the QC35 are a bit more comfortable. So it really depends on, like I said, it's subjective. It really depends on how they fit over your ears.
But I think everyone agrees that the XM3 is more comfortable than the XM2 and the original one.
Yes, yeah? Yes. Definitely in comfort, they've made an improvement, especially with the pads. Like the XM1, between the XM1 and the XM2, there's not that much difference, but between the XM2 and the XM3, you definitely feel it as you put it on your head. That also goes for build quality. Although we don't have the chance to do a durability test and really kind of like see if the headband design and yokes is more resistant, because the 1000X had an issue with its headband that it would break sometimes when you fold it and put it in your bag.
And I think also even with the XM2, no?
Yeah, there were some complaints with the XM2. Yeah. Again, our XM2 is here, and we use it quite often in the office, and it's held up quite well. I think, like I said, the video editor does use them out of the office quite often, so he folds them, put them in the case, and they're still here pretty good. So they improved the design a bit with the XM2, but with the XM3, they have a completely different headband design, which should be a bit more durable. It's a bit more close to what the Bose is doing, and Bose has never really had an issue with that we've heard of with the
And
headband.
I don't think we have heard anything negative about the headband of the XM3 yet.
Yet.
Yeah, it seems to be maybe better or improved over the older ones.
Yep.
So we skipped a couple of ones.
Yeah, let's see a couple questions first, because so hello everyone who just joined Gaming Audiophile, Hinani Ibrahim, and Tex from Ro. Tex from Ro is asking, how about the Soundstage of the XM3? Okay. I know it's diving straight into like sound, but we can always come back for design stuff anyway.
So I would say that you probably wouldn't notice a major soundstage difference between any of these headphones. So the 1000 line of the Sony and the QC35 line of the Bose, their ear cups is not really deep, is not really large either, and they have active noise cancelling, so they're really isolating. So yeah, I would say the soundstage is maybe a bit different between them, but it wouldn't be noticeable, and it's small enough that I don't think you should make your decision based on their Soundstage. Make your decision based on comfort or sound quality or isolation or other things.
Do you want to show them what it looks like, what they're getting Soundstage-wise
Sure.
on the website?
Sure.
Just to kind of better compare. Again, they're not great. They are closed back headphones with noise cancelling, so we didn't expect them to be great, and they don't do anything special with the Soundstage.
Yes. The
Yes.
Sony does come.
I was going to
does come with an app that has some room effects, but we don't have a test for room effects yet, and it is not the best room effect software out there. The Odyssey Mobius has really good DSP Soundstage, but it also, you can use the same algorithm for your Android and iPhone phones using the Waves NX software. It doesn't have a great player or Spotify integration, but it's the best DSP aided soundstage that we have heard so far. And here we have the soundstage test of the QC35 on the left and the XM3 on the right. Both are in the red, and their PRTF response doesn't really follow our reference that closely, and because they're closed back and noise cancelling, they're getting a low score. So I would say you wouldn't notice a difference between them, really.
So like the gaming audiophile said, the QC35 sounds, I guess, a tad bit more spacious, but you won't notice it, especially if you're messing around with the room effects in the app of the XM3. Yeah. But again, it won't have that sound stage of, like, say, the Mobius or something.
And maybe it sounds more spacious. Well, one of the reasons it sounds more spacious could be that it has a bit more neutral sound and a bit less bass and a bit better treble. That could just result in so you're going to hear the reverb and the room reflections in the sound better, which could translate as into more spacious sound.
So, well, I mean, let's continue in that vein. We have Atahan UZ, who's asking, hello, I am a classical music listener, and how did these headphones sound? Are they designed from mainstream music and classical music sounds bad on them? So I'm assuming you're talking about the XM3? But again, and the Bose, but like we should dive into that a bit more.
So I would say they're probably not the ideal headphones for classical music. People who listen to classical music, they seem to prefer open back headphones and the ones with large ear cups. So something like the HD600, HD800S, or the Hi-Fi Man Ananda, or the Edition X. But between these two, I would say the QC35 is probably better because it has a more neutral sound. Bass is not as important to people who listen to classical music, but they want to have a neutral mid-range and treble. And the mid-range and treble of the QC35 is more neutral than the XM3.
Do you mind showing the overall frequency response for both of them?
I don't. No. Okay. So.
And we have a couple sound files that we can compare.
We have a playback, yeah. So you can see that the Bose is a bit less bass heavy than the XM3, but XM3 is not too bass heavy either, so it's not really overblown the bass of it. But the mid-range and the treble of the Bose is noticeably more even and neutral than the Sony. So, and that's something that people probably care more for classical music.
And again, in this case, it's more neutral sounding. It doesn't mean that they sound better. In our, in the office, people have tried the XM3 and the Bose, and most, at least depending on the genre, some people prefer the XM3 because it has a bit more bass and you can EQ a lot of it sound. So
you can be more open about it. I'm the only person who prefers the QC35 in the office.
The more neutral sounding, which again, depending on your taste.
But the good thing about the XM3, as Mark was saying, is that the app has an EQ. So if you don't like the sound of the XM3, you can EQ it to your taste. With the Bose, you don't have that option. So you have to maybe use the EQ that comes with Spotify or any other player that you're using. So that's the advantage that the XM3 has. You can add more bass, you can take out some bass. That's so you have more flexibility there.
So we're getting in a couple questions, so we're just gonna have kind of like a lightning round, just go through. So I've just bought the, Anthony Harriet says, I've just bought the XM3 and it took a long while for someone to address the issue of the headphones getting wet in any way. Again, we don't have yet a sweat-resistant water test for all our headphones, even the ones that are more sports-specific headphones. It is something that we have in our to-do list for a test bench update. We just have to find a way to properly measure this across all headphones. So once we do have a test like that, we will be able to answer these questions, but for now, we can't really...
And I guess if you've had an experience with them getting damaged with sweat or water or rain, let us know. So
discussions.
Yeah.
So Z Cheng says, which is more comfortable and should I get one to replace my 1000X? Thank you guys. So in terms of comfort, most prefer the QuietComfort 35 II over the Sony XM3. But like we mentioned a bit earlier in the stream, that the XM3 has improved their design over the XM2 and over the XM1. There's a slight improvement from the XM1 to the XM2 and a bigger improvement from the XM2 to the XM3. So if you do want to update your 1000X for comfort, the XM3 would be better. Now, for other things, it might not be worth it. It might not be the best value, but at least if comfort is key and you want to upgrade to the XM3, then comfort will be better. But if you want the best comfort out of all of them, and actually out of most of the closed-back headphones we've tested, then the QuietComfort 35 will be the way to go. 35 too.
So let me know if you disagree. I would say that if they are comfortable with the comfort of the with the 1000X, no need to upgrade to XM3. If they are unhappy with the comfort of 1000X, then they will probably be happy with the XM3.
And happier with the Bose.
With the Bose, probably.
Probably.
But if they want to EQ the sound of the 1000X because it doesn't work with the app,
yeah.
then it would make sense for them to get the XM3.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the problems with the 1000X, the original one, that it's not compatible with the Sony Connect app.
So another question. It's going to be a bit hard to pronounce this name. FDSG Gas F Gas. Okay. Hello guys, you're doing a great job. My question is, whenever I try any wireless headphone, the sound always break for a short time during playback from time to time. Is this normal? Now, we have, again, a long list of test bench updates that we want to add, and wireless reliability is one of them. Right now, we test for wireless range, but not necessarily wireless reliability. Some headphones do break up a bit more often. In this case, I've personally tried the QC35 II and the XM3. Range wasn't a major issue. Range wasn't a major issue, but the reliability of the XM3 was a lot better than the Bose QuietComfort 35 II. And that doesn't just go for my phone. We have another person in the office who tried it with their phone, and the XM3 went more reliable. So overall, it is a test that we will implement eventually, but for now, we don't have the exact facts on how reliable that connection is.
I have a question about the breakout of the signal in the Wi-Fi. With some application, or when I have two applications that require an audio output, sometimes there can be some glitch in the sound. I don't know if that can be part of processing of the computer or something.
You mean when it's connected to two sources?
It's not just one, it's two applications in the same computer, like one editing video, the other one playing music, and sometimes it just drops a few milliseconds.
I don't know. Bluetooth is pretty finicky.
Yeah, it's pretty finicky. It's pretty,
Definitely they should fix it. Something I've noticed which is odd is that depending on some of the clothing that I wear, it can affect the Bluetooth performance of my headphones. So I put my iPhone in my pocket, in my pants pocket, and I have a jacket that I guess it's polyester-ish something. And whenever I'm using that with my AirPods, the Bluetooth breaks up way more often than whether I'm not wearing my jacket. So I guess certain types of fabrics can also be a factor. which is pretty odd, but yeah.
So in this case, what we have on the website is mostly range. So the absolute range can go quite a bit, but wireless reliability itself, sometimes just an item of clothing could like make the headphones less responsive. So another question from Buchi Okeke. I tested both headphones over a 4-week period before I finally decided to buy the XM3. I can categorically say that it's not a fair competition. Again,
I'm curious to know what do they mean in terms of sound quality, noise cancelling?
This is also another, A. Guth also says the Sony is far superior. Again, it depends on what you want and what you need. We will get into the isolation performance in a bit. We will even play some audio clips. But if you're talking sound-wise, the Bose sound more neutral.
Yeah.
The XM3 will sound more exciting to some, and the fact that you have an EQ makes it even more flexible for certain night listeners, so maybe that's what makes them, at least in some people's opinion, a bit better. But it really depends on what you're looking for.
I would say that if you want a premium noise cancelling headphone, these are your two options, and you can't really go wrong with either.
Yeah,
no?
you can't really go wrong.
Agree?
I mean, there's more options, but you can't really go wrong with these two. They're probably the two best wireless noise cancelling headphones that we have.
And then in terms of sound quality, go with the one that you prefer. It depends on your preference. It depends on what kind of a music you listen to. And noise cancelling, both of them are really good. Again, you can't really go wrong with either. The Sony is slightly better, but for me, it's not that much better to be a deal breaker that, I have to go with the Sony. The Bose is still really good. And actually, I would pick the Bose because it's more comfortable for me and because I want a more neutral sound.
So from STS Dema 28, when it comes to sound, through the website, we can compare only signatures for these companies. Given that Sony provides an EQ, would you consider a review and score for custom profiles?
At some point, yes.
This is actually a high to do on our test bench update at being able to score custom sound profiles and having variable curves. It's a fairly difficult implementation.
It is high on the to-do list, but it's also quite difficult to do, and our website infrastructure doesn't support it fully yet, so I don't think it's going to happen in the near future. But yeah, definitely that's something that we want to do.
Because ideally, it would be nice if you could select a profile and that profile stays that way, and you can compare it to like other headphones, even with like a specific score set that you created for yourself. So we do want to go into this a bit deeper, but for now, it won't be anytime soon that we have that feature. But it is in the works. So from Dark Cloud.
What?
Yeah,
we kind of got distracted. So do we play the...
We'll start with audio first.
Just playback,
sound. Playback, yeah.
So this is something we recorded on our dummy head. So you can hear the difference between these two headphones the way it is on the dummy head. It may not be the same on you. And what you hear is not going to sound exactly on you either, because it's going through the dummy head and then through your headphones. So this is just a relative comparison, and it's not an absolute comparison. So this is the sound of the Bose QC35.
Do you hear it?
Okay, now I'm going to play the XM3. Different play. So between this, in terms of comparison, the XM3 has more bass, and the treble is a bit more veiled, I would say. But both are pretty good, so you can't really go wrong with either.
Again, it's a preference, a more personal choice. If you prefer a more neutral sounding headphone than the Bose, and if you prefer a more bass-centric sound than the Sonys, and also because you can EQ them, you can make them sound the way you like.
So it's 420. Do we also discuss the isolation?
Yeah, we need to show the isolation.
Because I guess people care about that a lot. So again, both of these headphones are really good at noise canceling. You can't really go wrong with either, but the XM3 is slightly better than the Bose. And the XM3, it seems that it is using the same noise canceling system as the XM2 and the 1000X, but because the ear cups are improved, I think you get a more consistent seal, so the performance is more consistent. But I think if you get the same amount of seal, the performance is going to be nearly identical. And they should basically be good for all cases, for commute, airplanes, subway, office. You can't really go wrong with either of them. And you can control the amount of noise canceling on both, correct?
Yes. So with the Bose QuietComfort, you can actually set it in the app, or if you haven't set up your Google Assistant, the button can switch between low, medium, and high. However, for the XM3, you can actually, via the app, not only optimize it for your environment, but also can, get a more precise slider that you can adjust the XM3's noise cancelling with.
And the Sony has hear-through, right?
Yes.
Is that what they call it, hear-through?
Like the features, so basically covering the right, was it the right or left ear cup? I believe it's the right ear cup. So covering the right ear cup with your palm will attenuate the sound so that you can actually hear what's going on, and the noise cancelling.
And it also, does it open up the sound also?
It doesn't open up the sound. I'm not sure. I think it just attenuates.
Okay.
If you switch it manually to open up the sound via the app, it will. But if you put your hand, it just kind of attenuates. And
so that's what I was going to say. That you have the option with the Sony to kind of reverse the noise cancelling. So it actually feeds this outside noise into your ear cups. With the Bose, you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
well, let's play the leakage, and then we'll get to more questions.
Play isolation?
Yeah, isolation.
Okay. So we have playback for isolation and leakage on the website that you can listen to yourself. I'm going to play a little bit of the isolation of the Bose first.
Does it come with a reference?
No, but they can compare to see which one is better. The reference is on the isolation page if they want to listen to it. So I'm going to jump ahead to the... This is a subway noise. Now I'm going to play the same thing with the XM3. And if you want to listen to the not noise canceled original file, it's in the isolation article on the website, so you can listen to the reference file.
Yep. So we have a couple more questions, a lot of them concerning sound actually. Let's go back a bit. So Dark Cloud 1983 had a couple questions here, but in his preference, the XM3 sounded a lot better than the Bose, and he also, which connects to another question that Tobek Chuku said. It's very difficult to tell them apart on their end, maybe because of the filters, the sample rate, and the YouTube compression that's happening when we played the small clip. You can hear the difference to a certain extent, but yes, depending on, it is a relative comparison, not an absolute one. So depending on what headphones you're using on your end, I guess the compression algorithm also factors in. But
and the difference is also subtle.
It's very subtle.
So it's not a huge difference between them. So it is possible that because of the compression, or maybe your headphones don't have a lot of bass or they have too much bass, you didn't notice a difference as much.
Again, with our measurements and across the measurements with people, you do notice that the XM3 sound a bit more bass heavy, especially in the higher bass, high bass.
Yeah.
It's a bit more boomy in that range, and the Bose sound a bit more neutral. Now, how that translates to your personal preference and enjoyment, that really depends on on what you prefer when getting a headphone. It really does. So a couple more questions here. Again, Sony. So from Marcelo Teza, Sony EQ at max volume, does it distort or can it distort?
Sony EQ at max volume.
Yeah. So if you EQ them and
I haven't set the Sony EQ to max volume to see if it distorts, but I would guess that no, it's not gonna distort unless you really add a lot of bass and really play something really bass heavy at a really loud volume. I think they would be okay. They should be able to take a decent amount of bass boost in EQ, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay, so another question from Dark Cloud. Have you guys tried LDAC? In this, our test bench does not yet support LDAC. Like some Android phone, my phone, and some of the phones in the office do have the LDAC codec. We listened to them. We couldn't perceive the difference, but then again, we have codec article on our website where we show the major differences between not only codecs, latency, range, and stuff,
and
but
wired,
also
wireless.
Wired, wireless.
Yeah.
So with our current testing procedure, we can't really tell the difference, but there might be a case for if we had perceptual, what is it, peak?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the acronym? It's a measuring tool that would be a bit would be non-linear. So
there is standard for measuring the sound quality of codecs, which was I guess tested for evaluating MP3 or AAC. Those things, it's called peak, PEAQ. And we don't have it yet, but if we get it at some point, we're going to definitely run all of these headphones through that test to see what numbers we're getting.
So another question from...
Open question.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we just entered, well, not
Do
entered.
we extend it because we haven't
there's a couple
gone
questions,
through everything that we wanted to talk about?
Let's get a bit more questions through, and then we'll answer the open questions in a bit. So Lalit Sharma says, Bluetooth doesn't sound good enough to warrant $400, so don't get either of these. What do you think about not only having a Bluetooth headset, but Bluetooth reliability and if sound quality is actually affected by between Bluetooth and wired?
Sound quality is slightly affected, but it's kind of similar to if you're listening to MP3. So if you're okay with listening to MP3, then you will also be okay with listening to Bluetooth headphones. I don't think they sound terrible. They sound even better than these. I say they sound good. But if you're really picky about sound quality and compression, then you probably want to go with lossless audio and a wired headphone. But otherwise, I would say Bluetooth is good enough. Most of the Bluetooth devices are reliable enough. They may cut out here and there, but I don't think is going to really affect your listening experience unless it's a bad one that keeps cutting out. Yeah, Bluetooth is finicky, but I wouldn't say don't use Bluetooth headphones.
And if you connect it wired with the noise cancelling on and all that, does it make a big difference in some way?
So our video editor just asked if using these headphones wired actually make a difference. It makes a really small difference. And as Mark mentioned, we have actually audio playback examples on the website. I think one of them is actually the XM3. We have XM3 and Backbeat Pro 2, right?
Oh, no, the XM3 wasn't.
Oh, sorry, XM1, the original 1000X. That we have a audio recording wired and wireless, and you can listen to the same actually clip that I played to see if you can notice the difference. I would say the difference is small enough to not be a factor unless you're really picky about compression.
Okay, so that would be the main focus of the XM3 questions. There are some things that we did want to cover, like the improvements to battery life of the XM3 because it has a USB-C port now, so it charges much faster. It also has an auto-off timer in the app, whereas the XM2 didn't. But again, I feel like a lot more people want to ask about not only sound quality, but more so the differences between what should they choose between the XM3 and the and the QuietComfort.
You had mentioned the USB-C.
Yes, I mentioned the USB-C.
So the only thing I would say that I wanted to discuss, which we haven't, is the leakage. That the Sony has less leakage than the Bose. The leakage of the Sony is pretty good, so you don't really have to worry about it. Worry about bothering people around you, unless you're listening to music really loud and in a quiet place. With the Bose, if you're in a decently quiet place and you're listening to music at a moderate level, it is still possible for people to hear what you're listening to. So that, for me, that's the, other than the app, that it has a really bare bones app and doesn't have a lot of features. The other downside of the Bose, in my opinion, is that they leak a bit more than they should. Or, yeah, you would expect from a headphone of that price.
All right. So we are entering the open questions period. So if you have, the questions don't have to be limited to the XM3 or the QC35. You can ask any general question about our testing procedure, about another headphone. So with that being said, there's actually a question here from Lalit Sharma. A non-trolley question. What are the wired equivalents of these headphones? Sennheiser, Audio-Technica, any other brand?
Well, the wired equivalent of the QC35 is the Sound True Around Ear 2, which sounds nearly identical to the QC35, but because it doesn't have the noise cancelling of the QC35, their bass delivery is actually not as consistent. One of the really good things about these two headphones is that they use their noise cancelling system to check for bass seal, and they compensate if you're not getting a good seal, so you always get the same amount of bass. If you get the Sound True Around Ear 2, Ultra Around Ear 2? Sound True Around Ear 2, it is possible that if you wear glasses or if you don't get a good seal with the headphones, you notice a drop in bass. With the Sony, I don't know what would be the equivalent wired, but if you want a good wired Sony headphone, it would be the Sony MDR1A, I would say.
Yeah, the MDR1A would probably be pretty good.
It's similar sound, not quite similar sounding to the XM3, but that's a really good and comfortable headphone. You can get the same sound quality, but less comfort with the MDR7506. And if you want another really good wired headphone, it would be the Audio-Technica M50. If you want an open one, it would be HD600. If you want to pay more, it would be HD800S or the Hi-Fi Man Ananda. I hope I answered that question.
So another question from Dark Cloud 1983. Question: What are your guys' thoughts on the AudioQuest Dragonfly with an audio device? So I'm assuming the DAC, the Dragonfly DAC.
I don't have any thoughts on it.
So we are planning an article next quarter, maybe next quarter, for DACs in general. So we wanted to get a bunch of DACs and compare them across the board from the affordable, like $100, $50, $100 range to all the way to the like Ragnarok that we have. and seeing if people can not only tell the difference perceptually, but if we can actually measure that. So it is coming. For now, we can't really say much about DACs. In our impression, most of the time when we've tried DACs, they haven't really improved the sound quality. Definitely for higher impedance headphones, having the DAC allows them to like sound like you get the proper sound.
The amp, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most DACs sound good enough, I would say. Most amps also sound good enough. The biggest difference would be in how loud they can drive your headphones. So if your headphone doesn't get loud enough, then maybe you can get a more powerful amp.
But again, since we don't have the proper measurements to back it up, we would prefer refraining from making any comments for now until we've put the whole a whole set of amps and DACs through our testing procedure and getting actual proper numbers to compare. We have another question. I think somebody might have joined a bit late because we answered this. Wojciech Wilczynski?
That's a Polish name.
I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I'm really sorry. I assume Sonys are better at noise.
Wojciechowski? I don't know. Well,
Again, thank you for butchering it again. I assume the Sonys are better at noise canceling. To what extent do they cancel loud conversations 1 meter next to me? I understand you'll still hear it, but is it silent enough to be able to focus?
I would say yes, especially if you actually are playing something through your headphones too, so it's gonna mask the outside noise even more. But actually we have a feature on the website that you can listen to it for yourself. Go to the review. In the isolation section, there's a playback button. If you play that, you can listen. In the middle of the file, there's actually office conversation that we recorded. And if you want to listen to it without any noise canceling, click on the more about isolation link, and then
you can show it on the.
Yeah.
Do you mind going
switch
to
the screen?
Sure.
So here you can listen to the playback.
Can you show that it's on the review itself and in the isolation?
Yeah, it's in the review in the isolation section, noise isolation playback, and in the middle of the file there's office conversation. And if you click on learn about noise isolation, you can listen to the original reference recording, which doesn't have any noise canceling, which is here. So you can compare for yourself and make the decision for yourself. But I would say it is good, especially if you play something so masks the sound even more. And unless you go with an in-ear headphone, these are the best ones that are available on the market now. So if you want an over-ear noise canceling headphone, these are the best ones you can get, I would say.
So from Tobek Chukwu Njoku, I enjoy your display reviews. Any chance you could expand the range into PC monitors? We already have those.
We already have those. So if you want to bring the screen manual.
Do you mind?
Okay. So if you go to the home page, we have televisions, headphones. If you scroll down a little bit, which
doesn't work.
Yeah, we have 45 PC monitors reviewed so far. Not as much as the headphones and TVs, but there's more coming. Yeah. So and if you have any requests, you can actually vote here for your monitors you want it to be reviewed.
Yeah. So the silo, the monitors page is still and reviews section is still pretty new. So we don't have all the articles that go deep into the actual testing procedure, but 45, and there's plenty more that we are planning to test, not only for this quarter, but from this,
future quarters.
For future quarters, yeah. So, from the gaming audiophile, what's the best sounding portable headphone you guys would, best sounding portable headphones you guys would say?
Portable meaning Bluetooth? Or like in ears, earbuds?
I mean, we can cover the range. So best sounding truly wireless is probably the Bose SoundSport 3.
If you want a neutral sound, if you want a more bass heavy sound, then maybe Jaybird.
Yeah, either Jaybird or go with the Jabra because of the EQ. Yeah, it has a proper EQ that you can.
Jaybird Freedom 2 X4, which the review is coming up soon, or one of the Jabra headphones.
One of the Jabras. Okay.
For over ear.
Portable. Okay, so wired portable, probably the 7506, the Sony's. It's not the
Or
most
M50?
portable M50s, but since they fold, you can just like kind of throw
Yeah.
them in your bag. But that's wired.
For wireless,
Wireless
so
is one of these two. So
QC35 II, XM3, Backbeat Pro 2, but it has too much bass. But other than the bass, the rest is pretty good. No,
not too much bass. It's low bass, so it's not.
my eyeballs shake when I listen to that
I enjoy
headphone.
it.
Okay. What else? PXC550.
Yeah,
That's also
it's
pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So Sennheiser PXC550.
So from Mr. Brown, do these headphones have aptx low latency? If not, what would be a good wireless headphone for watching videos? The answer is actually just below from the gaming audiophile, the Plantronics Backbeat Pro 2. They have aptx low latency. So
These two don't.
These two don't. So the XM3 and the Bose QuietComfort 35 II do not have aptx low latency. The XM3 do have aptx. Oh, sorry. I'm not looking
It's
at
being
the camera.
pointed out to us that we should look at the camera when we talk.
The XM3 do have aptx, but not aptx low latency. They have aptx HD. The Bose do not have aptx at all. But if you want a low latency compatible headphone, it's going to be the Plantronics Backbeat Pro 2.
Another thing is that some headphones, when they connect to a device, they actually compensate for the latency. That's my experience with the AirPods and Apple devices. I guess some other devices do the same thing with Android.
So we actually got a question concerning this, where a user noticed that it varies even depending on the app. So like YouTube sometimes would automatically compensate for latency. Netflix does it too, but then some other like players don't, and then you would notice the difference in delay. So again, the numbers that we have are using a standard Bluetooth 4.2 dongle and not using a dedicated app. So these are the raw latency numbers. Now, how exactly that reflects when you're actually watching a video will depend on whether the OS has a compensation, built-in compensation, like for the iPhone and the AirPods, or if the application itself somewhat delays the video to be able to match latency.
So there is that one question by Steven CM that I want to answer.
Oh, okay, I understand. So which one, from Steven CM, which one has better call quality?
So the Bose is slightly better. The Sony's microphone actually is not that good. Again, we have playback. You can listen to the playback yourself. But as a general statement, Bluetooth headphones don't have a great microphone because their bandwidth for audio when you're on the phone is limited by the Bluetooth protocol. So however good your microphone, it's going to go through the bottleneck of the Bluetooth protocol, so it's not going to sound great. If you really want a good microphone for call, get a wired headset, or if you want the best, then get a gaming headset with a boom mic. I would say the Bose microphones are actually, like on the QC35 is really good. The Apple EarPods microphone is really good. Most of the gaming headsets have really good microphones, but if you really, it's not that the audio is not going to be intelligible on most of these headphones if you use them Bluetooth, but it's not going to be as good as a wired headphone. And the Sony actually may not be even that great regardless. So the Bose would be better by slightly.
All right. So we are going to be ending the live Q&A soon. Do you think we can squeeze maybe
anything
one or two
we missed?
questions?
So we mentioned everything we wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Right?
So
We just didn't look at the camera enough.
So quick summary, which one has better noise canceling? They're both really good. They're actually on a league of their own, let's put it that way. The XM3 have an optimizer, so depending on the conditions and if you like optimize it for your environment, they might slightly edge out over the Bose. But again, the difference is so minor that with both headphones you will be covered for...
Do you agree with me that I would say the Sony is better than the Bose in terms of noise cancelling, but the Bose is more comfortable than the Sony, and probably the difference in comfort is bigger than the difference in noise cancelling?
Oh yes, yes. Yeah. The difference in in comfort will be more noticeable for each individual.
Yeah, so if comfort is more important for you,
noise
go with the Bose, and you're not going to be upset about their noise canceling.
All right. So thank you again for participating and for all the questions. We didn't get a chance to get through all of them. However, we will have another live Q&A maybe in 2 weeks to a month. 2 weeks, let's say. But yeah, thank you again for your participation, and
see you later.
See ya.